Here's something strange that I didn't realize until yesterday when I happened to be looking around online, is that Caroline Courtney, writer of Regency romance novels in the 1980s, and Penny Jordan, writer of contemporary romances for Harlequin in, starting in 1981 and into, she died in 2011, so she wrote around 100 or more contemporaries for Harlequin. These two were actually the same person, which is a bit surprising to me, and I'll show you why in a minute here. But Warner Books, starting in 1979, started pushing Caroline Courtney, England's new mistress of Regency romance, as sort of their version of Barbara Cartland or Georgette Heyer. And the first book in the series was Duchess in Disguise. This book came out in 1980, this particular book number 7. And as you can see there, it doesn't give the name for the who it's copyrighted. It's copyright Arlington Books. And so this is book number 8. These are ones that I happen to have copies of. Books number 9 and book number 16 of Caroline Courtney. And this one came out in 1981. August 1981. Now the funny thing is when you look at the About the Author section for Caroline Courtney, Caroline Courtney was born in India, the youngest daughter of a British Army colonel stationed there in the troubled years after the First World War. Her first husband, a Royal Air Force pilot, was tragically killed in the closing stages of the Second World War. She later remarried and now lives with her second husband, a retired barrister, in a beautiful 17th century house in Cornwall. They have 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, all of whom are now married, and 4 grandchildren. So it's presumed from reading this that this is an older woman. On the rare occasions that Caroline Courtney takes time off from her writing, she enjoys gardening, blah, blah, blah. Caroline Courtney is destined to be one of this country's leading romantic novelists. She has written an enormous number of novels over the years, purely for pleasure, and has never before been interested in seeing them reach publication. However, at her family's insistence, she has now relented, and Warner Books is proud to be issuing a selection in this uniform edition. So it sounds like a discovery of this major author. But Duchess in Disguise was her very first book for them in 1979. Penny Jordan, her first book for Harlequin was in 1981, shortly after her first Caroline Courtney book came out. And these were contemporary books. And About the Author is very different. She wasn't born in India. In fact, when you read the Guardian obituary for her, when she died in 2011, Penelope Jones Halsall was her real name. And she was born in Lancashire, England, according to the Guardian and Wikipedia. And she had no children. Penny Jordan, blah, 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 is married and lives in Cheshire. No mention of a first husband or anything like that. Here's another Penny Jordan book about the author. Born in Lancashire, England, Penny Jordan now lives with her husband in a beautiful 14th century house in rural Cheshire. Penny has been writing for over 15 years, which matches, this book came out in 1999, so that matches with the 15 years. 1979 is when Caroline Courtney started writing, and now has more than 100 novels to her name. Blah, blah, blah. So anyways, it's kind of strange. Let's take a look at the different styles. I've not actually read a complete book by either one, but I had started, even before all this, that I learned that she was Penny Jordan. I'd started reading this one, Love's Masquerade, and I found it very charming, the way it was written. Melissa, look! Oh, is that not the most shocking sight? Cried Leonora, her lovely amber eyes wide with distress. Lady Melissa Paget turned her elegant head and gazed from the carriage window, murmuring, You really must not point in that vulgar fashion, Leonora. What is disturbing you? I can see nothing amiss. Covent Garden looks precisely as it always does at 11 o'clock in the morning. As usual, it is noisy. There are far too many carriages for the narrow streets. Over there, by the steps of the theatre, exclaimed Leonora impatiently. Have you not observed that enormous man setting about that young girl? See, he is boxing her ears. Oh, and now he has seized hold of her long red hair. I am convinced he will pull her poor head from her shoulders. The brute! Melissa shrugged disdainfully. Do not waste your sympathy on her, Leonora. Look at her ragged dress and filthy face. She is probably a common pickpocket, receiving her just deserts from an angry father. She sighed. Heavens, the congestion of carriages here this morning is taxing my patience. I declare we have been stuck here in Drury Lane now for nearly half an hour. The girl may be poor, but she is not a pickpocket. I am certain of it, asserted Leonora, pushing a wayward curl, I think is the next word. Oh, strand of golden hair from her forehead. When I was here at the theatre recently with Sir Max Fitzaaron, that self-same girl came and tugged at my cloak, and returned to me a gold brooch which had fallen from my gown. In all the crush and confusion, I had not even realized I had lost the brooch. The girl could have quite easily pocketed it, and I should have been none the wiser. But she was honest, and sought me out in order to hand it back. How can you be so sure it is the same girl? Inquired Melissa, watching with languid disinterest as the big man slapped the girl's face. By that bright red hair, declared Leonora with conviction. She winced as the man pinched the girl's cheeks, making her scream out with pain. Oh, Melissa, we must do something to help her. Leonora, do not be absurd, snapped Melissa, tucking a dark curl beneath the blue velvet of her bonnet. You must not interfere in other people's battles, and you know Cameron would be furious with you. Fiddlesticks to your pompous brother, cried Leonora. She drew a sharp breath. Mercy, he is trying to drag her down the lane, but she is fighting back. Leonora clapped her hands in encouragement as the red-haired girl delivered a well-placed kick on the big man's shin. He howled in fury. Seizing the advantage, the girl shot out her hand and clawed him down his leathery cheek. She's drawn blood. Oh, well done, cried Leonora. Melissa covered her ears. As her persecutor let out a bellow of rage, the girl wisely took to her heels. She fled down Drury Lane, her red hair flying in the wind. So that's an example of Caroline Courtney. I love that style of writing. It's very charming. Penny Jordan, one reviewer described her writing as kind of purple prose. That Caroline Courtney's didn't strike me that way, but check this out. In this one, A Time to Dream, this one middle paragraph is all one big sentence. I'll read it here. The trouble was that, much as she had looked forward to the isolation of these next few months, telling herself that a spring and summer set in the peaceful depths of the country, gently and leisurely bringing into reasonable decorative order the cottage she had been so unexpectedly left, much as she knew she needed this period of valuable recuperation to recover not just from a very nasty bout of flu, but also from the anguish of discovering that Paul had not loved her after all, and had simply been amusing himself with her while all the time intending to marry Sarah Jeffries, and thus amalgamate the two businesses owned and run by their respective fathers, she was still beginning to feel rather alone. I didn't find that writing too good. But anyways, so I've heard of many romance writers will have pen names, but to go to the extent of being born in India and so forth, as Caroline Courtney was said to have been born. This was even repeated when the New York Times in September 1979 did a story about romance novels. They had a mention of Caroline Courtney, and they repeated this information. She was born in India, the youngest daughter, during the First World War, etc. All a fiction, apparently. unless the Guardian made a mistake or somebody erred. Anyway, that's Caroline Courtney is Penny Jordan, as far as I know. Let me know if I'm wrong.